Does that fill your heart? Okay. First of all, I want to introduce the infrastructure behind Laura Barrett Bennett, and that is Larry Bennett. Larry, please stand. We welcome you here today. And I want to tell you a little bit about Laura. Vicki and I were in class together and at Unity Village, and Laura was one of our teachers, and she taught Bible, obviously. And so the first day, Laura said, now you're going to fall, and you need to fall in love with the Bible if you're going to be a minister. I didn't have any problem with that. But there was this other person with me, Vicki, who said, huh? And she said to me, no way I'm going to fall in love with the Bible. And then she decided to talk to Laura directly about it at lunch. And they had lunch together, and I don't know what Laura said to her, but the only thing I know is when we came here and we were doing most of the teaching, Vicki taught all the Bible courses because she wouldn't let me teach them, all right? She loved it so much. So anyway, but Laura was for 13 years at Unity Village and at Unity Institute and seminary it became. As chair of the Biblical Studies, she has had two very successful ministries, one in Flint, Michigan, and the other one right down the street here at Renaissance in Chesapeake, and was there for about 7 years, I think. Has her own business now, which is an alternative ministry, and she has her first book out, which is Metagetics. She is brilliant, but she brings with that brilliance love. She is knowledgeable, to say the least, about the Bible. I mean, she talks about people I didn't even know lived. And they're not in the Bible, but they're all around the Bible, you see. And so she's done that. But most of all, what's happened for Vicki and myself is we have developed a friendship. We have developed respect for Laura in many, many ways. But most of all, we feel that we are tied together, heart to heart and spirit to spirit and soul to soul. And we are thankful for that. And we are thankful to have her here today and to have had she and Larry in our home last night. And there will be, at 1 o'clock, don't miss it, a workshop on how to use the Bible to fulfill yourself and make it come alive in you. Laura Barrett Bennett. Thank you, honey.
Richard, after such an introduction, my heart is full. I love you and Vicki, and you know this man is doing an incredible job for our entire Unity movement, and I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. As the chairperson of Unity Worldwide Ministries, and a couple of years ago, I was on the board. I decided not to run for a second term. Had I run for a second term, I'd probably be in your position now. And that's right. And I am so grateful for the divine order of things. I stepped back to finish my book and get an alternative ministry of traveling and doing workshops and working with people from ministry to ministry. And there's my infrastructure right there. Yes, he is. He's my assistant, my producer, manager. That's right. That's right. And I want to tell you, when I came into what was playing here, as time goes by, where is it? Yes. I just wanted to get up and dance with Larry, you know. Okay. Yep. And Richard, when you talk about unity and Jesus and how to light people up, you hit the nail right on the head. You said, we're talking about Jesus in a way that heals people and, doesn't hurt. And well, that's great. Wow. And we're putting it in the unity perspective. Wonderful, wonderful. And I'm bringing the popcorn, and that got applause. Yes. And you have built a beautiful ministry here. And today we're going to experience some spiritual popcorn, pop, 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 by walking up a ladder. And how glorious this music is. Oh my goodness. Wow. And what's the name of the musical that these songs are from? Children of Eden, and it's a birthing story, isn't it, really? It's a birthing story, because that is a birthing story in the Bible, Adam and Eve. My professor, many years ago, way back in the 70s, my first religion professor, put forth that it was not so much a fall as it was a birth from the womb of Eden into life. And then we are on an evolutionary path as we're not going back to Eden. We are going toward the new heaven, the new earth, the new Jerusalem, the full consciousness of God. We're going from knowing nothing but God in the Garden of Eden to knowing everything as God. And that evolutionary process is what we teach in Unity. And so I took Unity's approach to the Bible, which is metaphysics, and I moved it into what it truly is, that full transformational experience of spirit, soul, body, and world. And I called it Metagetics, using meta for metaphysics, which means the truth, the spiritual truth that underlies physical reality, and using the word Jesus or getics from other terms of biblical interpretation. But it's a syllable, it's a couple of syllables that basically mean to guide, to lead, to establish in reality. And so it's moving this spiritual stuff into the reality of life is basically what Metagetics does. And I give a lot of, as Richard said, I just poured my stuff in here, and I give a lot of historical background from many different perspectives. But I also take everybody through breathing and working with the breath and transformation, and into a little taste of Christian mysticism, a little bit of Jewish mysticism, and it all comes together as we read the words. Let them bring forth the Spirit of God in us. Letting them bring forth the Spirit of God in us. And we do this not just with the Bible, but we do this with life, with what is happening in life. Boy, these days we don't have to read about the floods or the earthquakes in the Bible, do we? We're getting them, aren't we? And we're getting the storms of life that stir us up. And when we have a storm that happens, or an earthquake that happens somewhere, our humanity is deeply moved, because what is happening to people in Texas, in Florida, in Puerto Rico, in the Caribbean, in the Virgin Islands, in Mexico, what is happening to some part of us, isn't it? And we are stirred and moved and asking, how can I help? That old teaching that Jesus drew from the Hebrew Scriptures, love your neighbor as yourself, it's because your neighbor is yourself. And so we're wanting to move and do something. Or perhaps we're just wanting to find something and move with it and be blessed by it in our lives. In our lives. And today we're going to get a sample of how we can go to the Bible to take that challenge, whatever is challenging us. And challenge can be something of a dramatic or traumatic experience, or difficult experience, or it can be something that's just exciting and new and fresh in adventure. That's why I like the word challenge. I like the word challenge because what a challenge is, it's something that calls us higher. It calls us to be more of who we are meant to be. And so we are challenged as a humanity, as we can see in our world. And we probably have some things going on individually. And so I'm going to ask you today, as we move through an actual experience, a little piece of the process of metagetics, as we move through an actual experience, to take something to heart that you want to see a greater expression of God in, a greater awakening of love. It's all there. It's all already there. It's just a matter of waking it up, pulling it out, and a greater connection with who we are. It can be in your personal life. It can be in the world. Wherever it is, just take that challenge into your heart right now. And we're just going to do that with a breath that takes us to the heart. And I know Richard has done this work with you. I've seen him do that work with others, with heart math and other pieces. But if you just, I'm going to do your technique here, Richard. Put your hand on your heart and take a deep breath and know that surrounding you is the energy of the universe, the creative power of the universe. And breathe it into your heart space. Just breathe it in to all that is being held in your heart today. And breathe out what you no longer need. And once again, breathe in that energy of creativity that surrounds you. And breathe out what you no longer need. And just relax and let go and let God. And you may open your eyes. Now, in the next few minutes, we're going to be climbing a ladder. Because the story I chose to zero in on today is mentioned briefly in my book in relation to the work of a medieval monk, the 12th century, by the name of Grigio, from Italy, Grigio II. And he was a Carthusian monk. He was a desert monk in northern Africa from Italy. And he contemplated how Scripture can come alive. And he was the really first individual to come up with a specific method for relating not just to Scripture, but to life in a prayerful way, like a method, like a 4-step method. And he called it the ladder of monks, he called it. But not to be limited to the practice of monks, but for everybody. But since it came out of the monastery, he called it the ladder of monks. And in this ladder, he developed what has been called Lectio Divina. Lectio Divina. Lectio Divina is literally translates as sacred reading or divine reading. And for him, he was referring to reading Scripture, but he was also referring to reading life, observing life, how we observe life. Lectio means read, and of course Divina is divine spirit. The reading from the perspective of the divine spirit. And so we're going to do that a little bit today, and we're going to use the story that inspired Grigio, which was the story of Jacob's dream. Now, if you heard a story, a modern-day story about two brothers who had a falling out because one brother stole the other's birthright, okay, and he was feeling a threat to his life and his well-being. In so doing, he was feeling fearful for his life because he had done something really quite atrocious for the time. He had disguised himself like his brother, passed himself off as his brother, went into his father who was blind, and today it would be like stealing your identity on the internet. You know, he stole his brother's identity on the internet is how it would be today. And he gained all of his brother's, not just his inheritance, but the blessing, the passing on of the lineage. And so they'd had a falling out, and he ran off to make his way in life apart from his brother, leaving his brother at home, and find out what this was really all about and discover who he really was. Now, I'm going to go right to the end of the story, because at the very end of the story, Jacob returns to Esau, his older brother, and when he does, he is so humbled and moved at the possibility of reuniting with his brother that when he walks up to his brother, he actually falls to his knees 7 times, bowing to the ground before his brother in total humility. And it says, and it's a beautiful scene, it says they fell on each other like just falling on each other, and they wept. And brothers were reunited. And this is what happens to Jacob in his spiritual development. Jacob, whose name literally means supplanter and heel catcher, he was the second born. Esau came out first, and he was holding on to Esau's heel as he came out. But, these two twins, they were more like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito than they were actually physically resembling each other. And Jacob was brilliant and quite the trickster. He tricked his brother out of his inheritance. He did a little bit with his uncle when he was on his way up north to his uncle. He hung out with his uncle and tricked him out of some stuff, but also ended up making peace with him in the long run. As Jacob finally transformed with wrestling with the man of God, and he becomes Israel. Jacob transforms to Israel. He becomes the father of all of Israel. And Israel means striving for God. It means looking to connect with God. It means, wrestling in life to know God more. But in this stage of Jacob's life, he doesn't know who he is, and he's looking for who he is. And even though he's very clever mentally, and he can get along on his wits and on his mental cleverness, he has just created a schism with his brother, and he's out in the wilderness of Bethel, and he lays down and he sleeps, and he has this dream. And he sees this ladder reaching from earth to heaven, and angels ascending the ladder and angels descending the ladder. And in unity, we know Jacob to be a mental, to represent in us mental cleverness. And when we turn within, when we turn to that heart space, we immediately go past this. We anchor it here, and we get connected with God as we send our authentic prayers to God. Those are the angels ascending. We receive divine inspiration. Those are the angels descending. And the ladder. So we're going to climb that ladder, but we're not going to do it without some music. When I grew up in Sunday school, we sang the old song. Now I'm changing some of the words. Actually, we're going to do each of the verses of the song today, but we're changing the words a little bit. We sang, "We are climbing Jacob's ladder." Anybody remember that one? We are climbing Jacob's ladder. We are climbing Jacob's ladder. And we sang Children of the Lord. I know it was Soldiers of the Cross in its original one. Children of the Lord. That's what we sang in Sunday school. But we're going to shift the verses and shift the end of the verses with each step of Grigio's ladder of monks. And the first step can be summed up in one word, see. S-E-E, to see. To see. Grigio called that step lectio, which was reading, to read. And to read in Grigio's form was to just simply take it in, look at it, observe it, without judgment. Just be with it. And when you can do that, when you see whatever the situation is, however dire it seems on the outer, when you just see it exactly for what it is and exactly for what it is, without all the commentary and all of the stuff around it, but just what is so, then you are able to work more directly with it. So I'm going to invite you once again to take a deep breath. Go to that heart space and see whatever may be going on in your life just for what it is. No judgment here. It is what it is, as we like to say. And know that you have within you the full resources to be with it just as it is. And open your eyes, and we're going to sing that "We Are Climbing Jacob's Ladder," and we're going to say, "Seeing what is true." Seeing what is true at the end, rather than "Children of the Lord" or "Soldiers of the Cross." We're going to sing "Seeing what is true." So let us sing. We are climbing Jacob's ladder. We are climbing Jacob's ladder. We are climbing Jacob's ladder, seeing what is true, seeing what is true. Great. And the second step that we take, all right, the second step that we take is hear, to hear. And the word is meditatio. What is meditatio? Meditation. Add an N to the end of the words, and you'll get exactly what they are. Meditatio, meditation. And that means, in Grecio's form, it's an active meditation. It's a meditation of actually inquiring about the truth of something, actually going inside and asking God, what is mine to do and be? Who am I to be in this situation? Or what is mine to do? And then listening for the response from the Spirit of God in you. And so take that challenge in mind and take a deep breath once again. And close your eyes and ask God in your heart, from the place of your heart, who are you to be? What is yours to do? What is yours to say? And listen for a brief moment of silence for the response. And once again, take a deep breath. And when you make such an inquiry, if the response doesn't come right away, it will. Sometime through your day or over the next week, you'll go, aha, that was what I was asking about. Because you've opened it up to Spirit, and Spirit will deliver it to you at just the right time for you. In the meantime, we're going to sing. And we're going to sing the second verse of that old Sunday school song, which is "Every rung goes higher, higher." Every rung goes higher, higher. And this time we're going to sing "Listening for Love." Okay, so we're going to get higher we're going to get high here today. we're going to get higher as we listen for love. Okay, here we go. Every rung goes higher, higher. Every rung goes higher, higher. Every rung goes higher, higher. Listening for love. Listening for love. Ooh, you guys sound good. All right. The third step of Grecio's ladder, inspired by Jacob's dream, is to speak. Speaking. It's oratio, oration. But it's a specific kind of oration. It's the oration of prayer. The third step is really prayer, but it's spoken prayer. So in unity, our form of spoken prayer is affirmative, isn't it? Yes. Yes. And so what we are looking to is speaking an affirmation for ourselves. And I invite you to, at some point, form an affirmation for you. An affirmation basically makes firm the truth with your words. And I invite you to find one for yourself, but we'll all say this, we'll all, engage in the same one for the time being. Okay, which is, I am all I need to be. In this and every situation, in my life and in the world. Very good. Let's do it again. I am all I need to be in this and every situation in my life and in the world. There you go. All right. All right, what's the next verse? Here we go. It's we are climbing higher, higher, okay? And this time it will be speaking words of truth. So, we are climbing higher, higher. We are climbing higher, higher. We are climbing higher, higher, speaking words of truth. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And finally, the fourth rung, the top of the ladder, where we, I can see it, in my Sunday school child's eye inside, standing at the very top with my head and my body and the heavenly light, which is all in here, by the way. And this top is contemplatio, which is contemplation. And contemplation for Greccio, that's where the silence came in. He said, when you pray and inquire and you go deep enough, then you touch that pool of pure, sweet nectar of spirit. And so for him, contemplation was simply the way of going down into the heart of your being and touching that sweetness of spirit. And so we are going to take that same situation with which we are fully capable of being who we need to be, of doing what we need to do, and we are going to take it into our heart. And this part is to be it. So we're going to take this into our heart, knowing that we are who we need to be, and we are capable of doing what we need to do and saying what we need to say in this and every situation as we take a deep breath, breathing in the creative energy of God, breathing out what we do not need, and resting simply in the heart of who you are. You are enough. You are more than you need to be. You are what God is. And once again, take a deep breath. And our final verse is, rise and shine and give God glory. Rise and shine and give God glory. Rise and shine and give God glory. I am that I am. Okay, and we're going to sing it once to warm up, and on that second time, we're going to sing it twice. We're going to sing it again, and as we sing it again, I invite you to actually rise and shine, as is comfortable for you. Okay? I invite you to actually rise and shine. If you want to sit there and soak it in, that's fine too. But let us sing, rise and shine and give God glory. Rise and shine and give God glory. Rise and shine and give God glory. I am that I am. I am that I am. One more time. Rise and shine and give God glory. Rise and shine and give God glory. Rise and shine and give God glory. I am that I am. Yes, you are. And so it is.